super excited about this because we've heard from a number of perspectives today, and now we're going to be diving into the founder's perspective and how they are really using artificial intelligence. And AI sits at the center of both of your respective offerings. So let's dive into a bit to how you're actually revolutionizing AI adoption at scale. And Abdul, we'll start with you. How are you using AI in the Ultra platform? And maybe actually start by what is your Ultra platform?
Oh, okay. So I think at the center of our platform, maybe a lot of people here use some of our platforms or one of our platforms. At the center of everything we do is simplicity, right? We try, the whole promise of an Ultra platform is for you to be able to conduct your everyday digital services in one place using one experience or one user journey instead of having to go through multiple platforms and multiple user journeys. So at the core of an Ultra platform is simplicity. And I think AI helps really simplify things a lot. I think especially with generative AI, we're seeing a massive movement in user experience from click-based journeys into prompt-based journeys. So now all of a sudden it's cool to chat again. It's not cool to have big UI and a lot of clicking and a lot of journeys here and there. And this is what we do on bottom through the Ultra platform. Is you are now in a place like Abu Dhabi, you're able to pay your bills just by texting. You're able to check on your Emirates ID, renew your licenses, all of that just by shooting a text to the respective entity and being able to redeem that service.
Fabulous. And Sachin, moving to you, tell me about Builder AI and how you're helping like non-technical users to deploy the AI technologies.
Look, I think it's important, and really we sat about 20 minutes ago, so we're sitting again, which is great. I'm a big believer that 95% of the world that now needs software, they're not technical. But these are folks that have broadband at home, but they're not fiber optics engineers. They use satellite TV and they wouldn't know how to put anything into orbit, let alone a satellite. Yet we're asking them to be really technical product managers, understand how software works, in order to now just be able to be in business. Remember, there's a big shift. 10 years ago, it was a nice to have. Now it's like, this is the minimum needed to be in business. And so for us, we have sort of taken a view when we started in 2017 and said, the front-end experience needs to be conversational. Because what can all curators do? They can talk and they can order online. So if we can give this mixed experience between conversational dialogue, giving options, making suggestions, making it really visual, making sure they feel that they've been understood, we're allowing everyone to be able to build software. And I think, similar to AstraTech, our belief is these things are a digital utility. Building software is a digital utility. The next 500 million applications are not going to be built like the last 100 million, nor are they going to be built by the same kind of people. And so we think the use of AI allows us to be able to go, to the largest possible audience. And by simply the power of their voice and their imagination, they can now build whatever they need.
I love that. And given that we've spoken today about the pace of AI and how it's moving so fast, you are using AI at the very core of your offerings. Do you ever feel like you're playing catch up, or how are you making sure that you're kind of integrating that and always sort of staying ahead?
Is that me?
Both, but yeah.
So I think with technology in general, you're always playing catch up, right? So you'll never be. I don't think there is a company or an entity that has figured it all out, and that's the good thing about technology. It has this hidden meritocracy of the more effort you put into it, new things will come out, and then you can lead in an industry. The minute I feel an organization says we've gotten all figured out, they become a Nokia, and then they don't end up very well. But again, I think that the one metric we chase when we're looking at what technology do we need to adopt, because it's becoming very noisy, right? Everyone and their dog is like inventing something new now. Everyone is making a new tool every day, and everyone says their tool is the best. I think for us, it's a very simple measure that we use. What do users actually want? Like, I understand everybody talks about super intelligence and how can we get 2 trillion more nodes into a GPT, but 99% of people, like Sachin said, don't need 2 trillion nodes. They need that just one node that pays their bill or does their utility. And I think the common factor across all successful technology is that it capitalizes on human laziness, right? I think as we move more and more from the industrial evolution towards now, companies that are taking more of the back end effort and simplifying the front end effort to the users, you make less effort as a person. Those are the companies that are deriving more and more value as we go. So I think for us it's very simple. We just keep our focus on what do people actually need, what do people actually use, and not on how sophisticated is the technology.
Look, and I think to build on that, we have a slightly myopic view of where we actually think we are in AI. So everyone seems to think superintelligence is here and jobs are being eaten and the world is being destroyed next week. If you imagine, we're at the day, or maybe last year was the day, and we're a little bit further ahead. Last year was the day when AOL launched the disk. And everyone said, oh my God, the internet's here. I was like, no, the internet's been here for about 50 years. It just got packaged into a disk. And so what was the revelation or the evolution that happened in November? It wasn't that large language models were here. BERT was invented 15 years ago. Transformer models and embeddings have been here for eons. The big shift was that suddenly you had technology communicating in a channel that was almost entirely reserved for human conversation. What does ChatGPT look like? It looks like WhatsApp or Botim. And so now you have people that freak out that you have this thing that sits in the same channel that I speak to my mom on. Second thing, whether it was direct or indirect, and there's some debate around this, the words were slowed down. Do you remember software? If you go to a Google search, it's like an instant. You go to ChatGPT and ask a question, and you see the words coming. And there's a really important human psychology in this. You remember when growing up, our teachers used to say, slow your response. Count to 3 before you answer back. It's because human beings trust a response that's slower because it feels like it's more thought out. The third evolution, actually, again, nothing to do with technology, all to do with design, was the vernacular we started using. We went from words that were acronyms and technical terms to hallucination. Well, actually, hallucination is not a confabulation. Confabulation is a technical term for what happens when it gets the statistics wrong. Hallucination is a human emotion. And so I think, it's really important to sort of see where we are. And I think the second piece for us has been, what are you actually using? Because everything is not a large language problem. Whether a human generates or a GPU generates, why did you generate it in the first place? Today, there are 10,000 people in the world, approximately, building login. Why are 9,999 people building login? Why couldn't they use the first login the first person built in the morning? And we laugh, right? Because I'm sort of being an analyst, but that's how silly it is to generate everything. And you think about how the human mind works. I'm sure you have a memory as a kid. You're not generating that memory. You're retrieving it. That's like a knowledge graph, right? If I said to you, complete my sentence, what am I going to
say?
Right. That's actually a graph neural network. It's predicting my next word on the back of inference. And now we want to write a poem about ADFW. That's generative in its nature. And we've just assumed, and I think, Abdullah said the same, we've just assumed everything is LLM, and every man, woman, and their pet is now building AI. But just because you use a large language model doesn't mean you're building it.
Just, on that point, I think Abdullah mentioned the tapping into human laziness and the thing about memory. I cannot remember all of my memories as a kid, but I feel like my own memory is getting sloppier with the use of AI and technology because I know that my human brain doesn't have to remember so much anymore. How do you kind of see that integrate? Like, is there a point where, or what do we use the intelligence that we've given over to computers? How do humans
look? I think we all have the potential to be superheroes. The interesting thing here is the human the cape or is the AI the cape? I think everyone's concerned that the human's the cape, and actually I'd argue the AI is the cape. And so we're made of organic matter. By default, we decay. There's the telomeres in our cells get smaller every year. They miscommunicate. That's why you get sick. It's also why you forget things. And it's perfectly fine that a semantic second brain can tell you what you forgot and how you get back into it. It's giving you superpowers. I don't see that creating laziness, because laziness implies a need to not want to do work. This is just biological. We age. And until we solve the telomere problem, we will keep aging. We may slow it, but we will still age. This thing doesn't age because circuit boards don't age. And I think that's really the difference.
I just to like touch on that, I think there's a lot of this question going around. It's not just about laziness, but it's just this whole thought process that technology should grow and should respect our feelings and should not take away our jobs and should, keep us healthy and should, again, I feel like a lot of the time people forget they're adults with brains bigger than computers, right? And we can't really, the most basic human instinct that we were created for with a very long time ago is survival. And our survival is not the job of a computer, it's our own job, it's each and every individual's job. And I do feel that there is a big sense of let's blame all of our employment problems on AI, let's blame all of our whatever issues on AI. And this happens every time you get a technological advancement. People start thinking like the world's gonna end and technology is bad and all of that. But I always tell people my very honest message, which a lot of people don't want to hear most of the time, is your survival in a workplace, in your environment, is your own worry, is your own duty, is your own job, and it's not the job of technology. Technology will always outgrow, right? And if you put yourself in a position where your company has to make a choice between, like Sachin said, a computer that doesn't age, that doesn't take holidays, that doesn't go off on weekends, and never fights with its girlfriend, and between a human that probably has a lot of different issues that happen in a workplace, and the computer is cheaper, that company, I don't know which company it is, but that company is going to choose the computer. But unless as a human you evolve and you continue on your survival path and you follow your instinct of you need to evolve as well along with the technology and become a technological operator rather than an executional layer person, you're probably in jeopardy as technology grows. And that's what I always tell people, because I feel like there's always this sense of technology has to have the responsibility to grow so well and take care of all of us, but it doesn't do that. And unfortunately, Sachin said it can make us superheroes. I think it's always the case that it makes supervillains first.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make superheroes first, because the human case for the past, I don't know how many years, but we've always used technology to kill each other first and then to gamble and make money. And then, whatever is left over, we use it for ESG and we take care of the world. So I think for sure it's going to make supervillains before it makes superheroes. And I don't need me to tell you, supervillains are not very nice people, and and they're not going to be very concerned on whose job technology is going to take or anything of the sort. So again, I really want to be the guy that came out with this message, and I want to be sitting here in 50 years and tell everyone I told you. Watch out for yourself, because if you're waiting for the technology to come and take care of your well-being, if you're waiting for the ecosystem to grow in a way where it's considerate, it has never done that. At least in my information, technology has never grown considerably to be considerate and nice to everyone. So that's.
Well, and I think a lot of it is also because of the beholder that's driving it. There's one other angle to look at this, and it goes to your sort of point of laziness or not. I think there's two things. We have acute scarcity in the world today. Scarcity of skills, scarcity of developers. You look at some people doing skilled jobs, they don't have enough time. Companies don't have resources to fulfill the mission that they set out to start with. And so the reason I talk about that is the next piece is, what is AI and general machine intelligence very good for? It's really good for removing variance. Humans are generally quite variant in our nature. So if you have more than one human in the loop in a process, you have very high degrees of variance. And the second thing is, we hate repetitive tasks. We just hate them. And so if you can offload highly variant tasks and offload highly repetitive tasks, you're actually creating a balance on a global scale between demand and supply. So I don't think anyone has to worry about, unless you were doing the repetitive task and you were really comfortable being highly variant.
No, I love that. We do have to take the personal responsibility ourselves to develop as well. We only somehow have about a minute left, and I know this is maybe not the right time scale to look out when you're looking at AI, but where do you see AI in your particular spheres, say in the next 2 to 5 years? Is that a reasonable time frame? I'm not sure. Or is that just a lifetime in AI?
So I think it's gonna still evolve massively. I think, if you were to look at AI today, you're looking at probably a 6-year-old that's extremely smart. I think within the next 2 years, we're gonna probably hit super intelligence, where AI is gonna be able to come up with new science altogether. Like Sachin said, AI now only uses whatever we train it on. It cannot create a new science. But I think in the next 2, 3 years, we might hear something like AI just created a new form of mathematics that would change everything that we look at. And again, the only constant is how dynamic we are and how adept to change we can remain. As a company, we try to simplify everything to its most basic form and serve it to our users, in a chat-based format. And I hope we can continue to do that.
Look, and I think I always get very nervous when we sort of talk about general intelligence, superintelligence, because I think the point of the singularity is the point at which we can't imagine. So therefore, if you took that philosophical argument forward, we really can't imagine when that's going to happen either. I think, I would even say we're even younger than 6. But I agree with the general decibel. I think we're, just about a toddler walking. And the reason I say it is, you imagine a child when they're born in the first 3 to 6 months, they have very limited access to information, and they're still building a value model, right? For example, I'm sure you've said to your kids, be nice. Be nice means many things, like don't hit your sister, don't bite the teacher, a number of others. But they learn through reinforced learning what that means. Today, what we've got is a child with the world's information and almost no value system and some set of basic rules on top. So it shows you just how much evolution that still needs to come. I give you a second example, and this is my favorite one, but imagine you're talking about American independence, and you're trying to teach a child in London versus a child in New York. We know that sovereignty is based on culture. Culture is based on a collection of history. History in itself has 2 principal views, at least, of what happened. So what do you teach the child in New York versus London about American independence if it's a single LLM that's running it? Because the problem you have today is volume is sort of some sort of authenticity for veracity, and it's not correct. So, these aren't technology problems, but these are problems that we're sort of getting our minds around, and also shows just how early this thing is, because you can't just give an answer to that. That answer is contextual, based on it, because you're trying to maintain history. Otherwise, what you've got is a homogeneous world where there's only one version of the truth. We know that's never the case.
Well, gentlemen, we are out of time. It's been such a fascinating discussion. I'm sure you'll agree. Please join me in thanking Sachin and Abdullah. Thank you so much.